Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye, and we're going to do a deep dive today. And we're going to look into Titanic, and we're also looking into the Astors. We're going to look into Liverpool. We're going to look into Belfast, and we're going to see there's like this connection that keeps coming through, that there is something about how everything goes on steel. And what were the Astors really into? Was it a railroad? Because we keep getting this railroad thing into all of it that we can't even see it coming whatsoever. So let's take a look. So I'm going to start with the poker cards. And today is just one of those dreary days. We had a little bit of winter weather and we can't see it coming. And when we can't see it coming, we just can't even do it. And we can't even do it. We can't even boo it. Like, means it's not even going to ghost. But today, actually, some ghost thing came through. And it was happening last night. And I said, it's got to be earthbound spirits where you just can't even see it come through. So when you actually see it come through, you can't even do it or boo it. Really, I'm seeing a BOU that comes to an MOU that lays on the table around 1912 that I hear da, and they're like they can't even do it. They can't even boo. They can't even sue. They can't even live. And I'm seeing a daughter, and I'm seeing a young chick. She's about 12 to 15 years old. She's sitting at the table. She is proper. She is all of it. She is an Astor's daughter. She is not. And then it goes right through to a boo of a loo of a sue. So, immediately I hear the energy of this gentleman come through. And it says, don't talk about my daughter right now. So when I look at it and I see this 5 of diamonds, it really was loose leaf, like paper, like bills that came on the table towards this gentleman who really was a wealthy man that you can't understand at all. But this Jack of Clubs comes in and goes, he really was the commander of the reef. So when I'm looking at it and I look through, he really commanded the ocean in a way unknown. So when he did this, you had to look out because water was a reef of a rife of a strife. So he would command the ocean. So it really wasn't a surprise that he was on the Titanic, that he had commissioned it to the point of grace where you couldn't see it coming. When I see this and I see the 9 of diamonds, I see that he really cut out, and I see him do something like this and be it out there, that he was strong enough to really command the energy of the room, which would be a presence unknown to a present unknown. And all of a sudden a gift would come through. It was very proper to actually be there. And I say it all the time, and I'm like, why do I have this like terrible reflex all the time? The 6 of clubs comes in and you can't even see it coming, where it's laid on the table with a knife and it says it is a takeaway, but you can't be done. So when I look at it and I see 8 of spades, you have to say it really was a spear. So looking at the dock, I actually look at the Titanic the way it's presenting to me in mediumship. Let's do this. It really was a contentment order. It really was happy. It really was a go FON and for it. It really was hard to get out. It really was beknownst. It really was done, a DUN. So really, it had a bit of Irish mob root in it. When I see this, I see the 4 of clubs. I see he was on a business trip detail to have it done, but he can't be done at all because the 7 of hearts comes through and you can't sue it. And you see Susie Q, and then you see Runaround Sue, and then you see QT Pie, Q-tip to be a bay, a BEY, which was an old leprechaun lore that would come in a time of need, and you would actually break bread, and it would be around soda bread, and it would be around March. And when they would march in the city or in the town, the 10 of spades comes in and says, you can't see it coming whatsoever. Now, when I see this and I see the Jack of Diamonds, I actually see it hard. I see it hard to the point of a review where you have to say lieu it, like in lieu of something. It really is hard. It really is true. And a TEU. And in that term, it would be like a bust. Money had come in through a review to get it done on a dawn, to be the pondale of the pond, to be a bay. And really, it was around World War One coming through to be a DIEU, DIEU, which means the dawn was to be ushered in. He wasn't there yet. The 4 clubs means there's 4 families they're showing me. When I see this, I see the 9 of clubs. There were 9 families in the contend. There were 2 of clubs in it where you can't even sue it at all. But really, it was the 10 of diamonds that comes through to be it all, to know it all, to sew it all, to buy. It really was a go to hell ceremony that came in. And back then, a go to hell ceremony was just showing like a few pieces of pence, of gold, of anything that you could review, of what you could do. But really, it was a show. It was a show of hands. It was a show of all to be it done and to have it all. But we just can't even see it. So when it was a fly-by-night on that around 1908 to 1912, it was a point of walking in with grace, like Peaky Blinders, where they would come through, and then it would end up being a war. And it ended up being a war, and it usually was about 7 families that would be highly impeded to the point of max, where they couldn't get anything done. So when I see this, I have to say the Astors did have something, because I'm looking at it, and I said, this guy, even Getty and all of them, made it so through and well that you can't even tell anyone what they were doing on their banking. Their banking that they're showing me was a silver pence, a gold coin review with a piece of paper about something of a penny. A penny would be something of a type of crime that would probably come through, and they would have to protect the public. Now, how they made their money and how they solidified it to where they're multimillionaires was a go through to a get through to be through. They were always tried and true. They were always found not to be in criminal activity, and it was really, really hard. So some lay low and some lay best at low, but some need to be higher. And that's okay. It really is. Sometimes you actually have to come out of the shadows. When I see this and I see the 5 of hearts come in, you have to say it's all laid out for you. And I have to say I contend well. So when they do that, other families would come through and they would be making alliance. And they would be making ties and bonds and tethers to the point of a review to be it all. So when I see that 5 of hearts with a 7 of spades, it comes through at a loss. And this loss was actually just like a dry cleaner for them, where you couldn't even see it coming. And everything was a sign and a symbol. Everything was synchronicities. They're highly superstitious. So when I'm looking at it, I say, why is this, as a psychic medium, looking at this and saying, the Titanic is bothering me because there's no steel, meaning Teamsters. Why is there no Teamsters? And it's so hard to get out. And I have to say it's a point of review, because then they say there'll be no steel. They literally just said it. There's no steel. Now, when I look at it and I say the Tarot of Kingdoms comes in, we have to look at it through and through. This is probably 2 videos. This one's hard. All right, here we go. Here it is, the 7 of Swords. The 7 of Swords says you want to come in and do a steal, but you can't. You have to watch the grass. You have to watch the soil. You have to watch everything. When I see the 2 of Wands, it is in reverse. It is no looking or foresight. It's going to be rambunctious that day. It's something that has not been seen yet. It really bothers the community and all. The 8 of Cups comes in and says it was a surprise coming in. It is kind of like a ghost town to a degree, because this 8 of Cups, when I see it, it is coming through hard, where everyone says, make sure you got your snacks, you got some meals like a crock pot, you got your bottled water, you got it coming through. And we're like, why is this? When I see this and it's strength in reverse, it's like weakness, absolute weakness. When I see this 4 of Cups come in, I actually have to say it really is like stone face at times. But the 10 of Swords it's like a finality of relief. It really is. It really is. Justice is served, but you just can't stew it or understand it. When I see it and I see the Hermit in reverse, it really was solitude to solidarity to an isolation known. So when I go back into it, and that was a lot of mediumship of words, it was a meeting of hard hearts that day around April of 1912. But really, they're like, like they would get those premonitions, they'd be like years in advance. They would have already had it into play. So when I see the 5 of Swords in reverse, it was nasty. It was absolutely nasty. This magician, like, they had to work their magic hard. They had to do it to the point where it was a protect. So me seeing how, if I was there at that time walking out to the boardwalk to the Titanic, it would have been great. It would have been grand. It was brand new. It was ahead of its time. And where you couldn't see it, you couldn't believe it. But when you're sitting there in Liverpool and you're on the scaffolding and you're trying to build this a massive display of dispense, everything, that you can't even do it enough. You can't even do it enough. The King of Wands means they really did sit honorably. There really was no dirty dealing or deed. They're really hiding it hidden. Writing it hidden, at least when I grew up, meant that you were not supposed to know it until it was in your face. Even the family knew about it. They're like, no, not till I tell you. And then you go and you're like, I'm really unhappy about this. It really has to do with rank. So when I look at it and I see this and I see the Emperor, they really sat well, such honorably of masculine energy, of a father-like figure, that the 2 of Pentacles came in. It was such money and monetary balance coming through to an energy balance that when you sat with them, you sat with greatness. When you had it come through, the 8 of Swords came in reverse, and it would like deplete the energy and it'd be cold. So when I see the 10 of Cups in reverse, there is such disappointment in the family after. So why couldn't they like keep it at all? Why were they reserved and stone cold hard? They really were hard to the point where you couldn't reserve it, but you couldn't know it or known it. So when you look at the Titanic, my love, I have to say it really was hard to get it out. It really was about steel, and STALE. And when I look at that meaning, it was a magician trick of obscurity. It's really hard, and it really is more of a curse than a magician's trick. but it's a magician's trick of someone who does illegal substance and criminal activity. So when I see it and I see it through, you have to go through to it hard. But it really was devastating because by 1912, and you're looking at it and he goes, this was hard and heavy. And you look through it and actually you see it to where it is to the current date and time. If you're someone really good with mediumship and psychic energy, reading energy, you don't even want to go there. Now, the Astors were in deep, but they were a well. They were a well. They were gold, and they were a well that you couldn't even see. So when I actually see it and I go through it, you can't even believe the heartbreak. It is. It hurts so hard and well when you actually look at that picture. Like, if this was something like what we're talking about, like how are they connected to Teamsters of the current date and time, the Astors, where it's to the Titanic and there's no steel. And then we have the Underground Patriot movement talking about watch the railroads, watch the trains, planes, and automobiles, watch everything because you couldn't even see it coming. And then devastatingly, we just recently in the last month had 3 aircraft crash, and then we had a railroad. You couldn't even make it up at all. That's why people are a little freaked out by now. At least out here in Connecticut, we've had some issues with a lot of car accidents. So we are very leery about what we do on our daytime too, even at night. So when I see this, this is where the Tower card came in. And then I sit there and I say, I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I've been here before. You couldn't even see it coming whatsoever. Whatever came through on the board of the Titan, the Titan, the Titan, the Titan, Triton, Titanic, you couldn't even be it. So when you actually look at it in an investigative route, we have to say we weren't really there, but we were there. But really, it was deja vu. Like, we've been through this before. We've really been through this before. It's taken a cruise to be it all. It was so, like, trolling to a disgusting way that we all have heartburn over it for weeks, even if you've never had it. So let's look at the runes. Because I do see a leprechaun. I do see Larry. I do see a Contalanium. I see a column. And I see a Lunialialium, da-dee-da-da, which is Irish Gaelic for ways to troll you and make you a poke-a-fun, to be a day of a way to say, I caught you, and literally the constable or someone down there, as they say, would literally catch on to it and say, I already know what's going on. Somebody had to get out of a pickle. So you see that guy, you literally nail it. It really was the day of the shift towards the Titantic. It really rushed in on a time lamp jump. And I'm looking, I'm like, why is a Christmas Story lamp leg coming in here? You can't even make it. There's something that doesn't want us to see it. And that's all. This wheel of luck is really more of an instinct feeling that you can't feel it when you see Lagu. It flows in well. So when I see it and I say Nadis, you can't even see it coming whatsoever because it really has to do at night. And so when I'm looking at it hard, those who understand religion and religious aspects to how they practice at night, everything changes at night. It's your prayer at night before you sleep, before you let your energy out for the night. So when I look at this and I say, right and you go about, and it becomes like a go about order, and you go and you see it hard that you can't even believe how hard it came through on an energy on a day of a bay of a lay, ALEA, which is all Gaelic for a type of judicial. When you're sitting at home and you're saying, I already know what you're doing, so I'm just going to put it right out there and I'm going to reveal you because I'm not even having it. And they say in 2025 that's illegal. But when it came to the Astors, you had to sit there and be solid. You weren't allowed to let out or let loose because they were the ones that control, along with Gaddy and a couple others, because you couldn't even see it coming to the highest of grades. So when I see Hera, a collection through, it was almost like penance too. Like they had to pay their dues. When I see this and I see one whole, I have to say all was coming to the point of grace, to the point of line. It was a joy, but you can't even see it through at all whatsoever. So when I see wealth, where was your wealth? Where was your wealth? It really was dew. It was dew. Dew was a type of moss that when you burn it, you can see he was a scryer, and he would put it in his pipe and he would smoke it and he would get it through. And that's all you need to know. So when I look at it and I see it, and it really was instinct, it really was heritage and culture that came in that really bothered everything. So Athala, heritage and instinct, that is where we start and also stop with the Titanic. There was so much heritage and culture aboard it, making a pivotal move across the pond to a new way of like innovative ways to get done anything that even those who were of lower income status, or what we would say low socioeconomic status, it would be like they could actually elevate and escalate and rise up to the median being on that ship. So there was a lot of gifting, more ways than one. So when I see this and the way this rune is, it really was gifting, high gifting. All right, let's look at another deck and see, because there is some sort of connection that really hurts. Because as we're seeing it, we say Liverpool really hurts and Belfast really hurts, and there's something how it would be in the future really hard. Now I go alone and I be a bone and I be alone and I be a zone of a bay of a lay of Sayer. Means like if I was speaking in that time, I would just be so beautiful, just sitting alone, having a bear and being fine, that I would have sold myself well and that I could get it going all by myself. And that was a crime and a sin because nobody could marry me. And that would lead down to the point of like prostituting. And I'm like, but I'm not prostituting. So where did all this crime come through? And that is why you just can't even sue anyone. You can't even bring it to legal in 2025. She was just walking down the road. She went to the bathroom. The Knight of Wands really says there's like a looking over the shoulder, like, did I do the right thing? Did I really go to the right pub? Because the Ten of Swords, it goes, there really was a finality of relief because there was absolute recklessness. Like, no, you were supposed to be here, here, here. Or I'm so sorry that I couldn't read your mind or hear you. But the Knight of Pentacles comes through and says you couldn't get an offer on the table. It really was a retract back. And when you go back and you go, I already know this Knight of Swords actually came in with such anxiety you couldn't see it. So as they're aboard the ship, and it's around like day 1 to 3, you go back and you say you can't do a retract back. I see almost like a deal had gone down on that ship at some point, but I don't see ill intent at that point. The Five of Pentacles actually sees that there was money lost, there was disappointment, there was something going on that ship. So when I'm looking at the Astors and the big names, I see the strength in it. But I don't know why I already had seen and felt the ding in the steel. There's something about the puck. So as my grandfather taught me, and being a naval man, let's see what he said. He goes, you really couldn't talk about it. It really be a done and a bad deal or bad deal, where you'd have to look at, the submarines and the ships, which, the regulations in this time would actually be fine. They're highly regulated after that incident. But, you're right, Jenny, that this whole idea would be that the steel in that ship, and you're talking about maybe there was a puck or a weakness, like what was true, what was due. So what would we actually go through it? It was like fire and ice. It really was a breath where their cigar was off and you couldn't retain. The Knight of Wands actually means there was almost like a type of cut where they couldn't do their magic. You weren't really to see it. It really was to like a crossroads to a type of like eyes blinding. And like that was the reaction. Like everyone, oh, I can't really. They try to readjust themselves. There's a halt stop. The Four of Pentacles goes. I mean, someone's got to have a knock on the door. Who's owning? Who's owning? And you go, right there. The Four of Pentacles goes, you can't believe it. It is high, high, high. The Magician says they worked their magic so well, it secured it so well, that it ended in a sharp, untimely death, but not no breath of life. It was so unhappy that you couldn't do it. It was dry well bone. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Let's look at this one. What else do we need to know? How does it link to today where they talk about it? All right. There was no logic. There was acceleration. I see an inhibition. I see a type of link that was in a bourbon. I do see a link where it was the ice. There was the amount of ice cubes in that bourbon to Tinkatock. And Tinkatock in Gaelic means to water it down to the point of a rush roux. And that is where we want to say we want to end it. It really hurts. Like it was that easy. They didn't even know that their energy had been cut down at all, that they were unbeknownst to everything going on. They were like in the heat of the moment in this like whirlwind of going through, that the Eight of Cups in reverse says there was no turning back. It was highly deceitful. So when I see this and I see the Four of Pentacles, the securement, they're actually showing me the rope in the shipyard where the run of the rope of the ray, if anyone has been like Coast Guard or Navy or anything like that, or maritime, you can't even like look at the rope. You know how it's supposed to be. They heard something though, because this Page of Cups goes, they heard the message. It's highly recorded. I'm seeing there's something in the historical society around there. There's about 2 to 3, and it sounds like a ghost, like a B-A-T, but almost beast. They want to say beast. Like a trombone, like a speakeasy. The Hermit, isolation though. High isolation, like in one in mediumship, a gentleman about 29 years old is showing me that you sat alone at home when they walked through. You knew them when they were walking through. It was like how they were in the movies. They were high and powerful, and you didn't do anything. You just sat in your place whenever they came through, and you speak quiet. Now, when you did that, there's something they had to weigh out options. All right. Let's see. Let's soften it up a little bit with the Starseed Oracle. I hear it. It says Star Family, you're part of a team of souls and call in support. They would have called in support to the highest degree of none. But really, Amara's anger, conflict, softening the love, a great severing. There was a big split between families to where is a V, like cut so hard in energy that you could see it. If someone could actually see like auras and who could see a little bit of energy, they're like, why is that a V? Why is that a T? So when I look at it through and I go, loosen your grip, coping mechanism, sensitivity, addiction, let God in. There was something about that where you go, learning to be human again in a world, but not of it. They literally were so hardened after certain things in their life that they had no go to it. It was soul gifts and training. It's time to like step up, and that is where we leave off right there. There was something, like we said, it was a business deal. It was someone who could rise up. It was about heritage and state, and like we've talked about when we talked about Sean Combs and how it was about heritage and estate, and the Rune Othala comes out. We talked about how gifts are passed down from generation to generation and diversity, and then we had the hiccup with DEI. So when we look at it a little bit harder, you can't even do it. You just can't even do it at all. At all. So with that being said, let's look at the animals, and then we'll look at to see what is true and what is not. Here we go. What do you want us to know? How is this? All about it. Here we go. Here we go, zebra. Rarity to oddity to on boast, on both. I almost can't even get it out. Everyone is literally puzzled. Not riddled, they're puzzled. There's no message that day. No message. And that's all you need to know. That's what really came through. They're like, I didn't really hear anything. I didn't hear it. Everywhere else was the nightingale. They were singing a song that day. It happened. And we'll leave it right there. So with that being said, any questions or concerns, leave a comment or an email. And then with that, a like, a comment, a share is greatly appreciated. With that, we'll talk to you soon and have a good day. There will be a part 2. Have a good day, everyone.